Hello and welcome to this taste challenge. We have two 80 proof American blended whiskeys, both bottled in Kentucky by the Founders Company. And if you know what I know, you know who owns the Founders Company. And that's where they're similar. So the 75 South, this is the old label. When I bought this was the label. But the label has changed, and I wish I could do screen share on Google Hangout on YouTube Google Hangouts. I would show you the new label design. It's a little nicer looking. This one's not bad, but the new one's a little spiffier. But I'm not buying another bottle. All I got it. That's all I got left. Introduced in 2006, and it goes on there talking about this is the flavor of the South. Blah blah blah. Does it have anything to do with Interstate 75 that runs through Kentucky? It might. I don't know where the name comes from. Don't know what the blend ratio is. I don't know what the age statement is. So we know there's no age statement, so we know it's at least 4 years old. The straight whiskeys in here are at least 4 years old. We know that. Does it have coloring added, flavoring added? The straight whiskeys don't. Can't add color into straight whiskey or a flavoring. Well, whatever. Okay. But once you blend them, then you can. Okay. Now, Iron Wheel. This is a focus on Kentucky. It's saying Kentucky, made in Kentucky, Iron Wheel, Kentucky blended whiskey, bottled in Kentucky. All the corn is from America, or does it say Kentucky? Okay, American grown corn. It says Kentucky 4 times on the label. Made in Kentucky blended. 1, 2, 3. Well, 4 if you read this part. Okay, so 3 times. All right. Then there's an essay on here about the Iron Wheel and its impact on agriculture in the United States. If this will focus. Driving me crazy. Then on the other side just tells you about the Founders Company. Oh, now it focuses. Each 36 months, meaning 3 years. Okay, let's try this again. So the Iron Wheel. And they got a nice pen and ink drawing. Mr. R says, it's a beautiful day to enjoy some whiskey. It's kind of cloudy and dreary here. Kind of chilly, really, for this time of the year. It's not cold or anything, but it's just going to get a little cold tonight. Why do most of these whiskeys come from Kentucky? Goes back to the days of the United States when it first started, 1780s. They grew a lot of corn out in Kentucky and Tennessee, but they didn't have good highways to ship it over the Appalachian Mountains into the eastern states. So they would distill it into corn liquor, send it down the Ohio and Mississippi River to New Orleans, and sell it in that format of bourbon whiskey. So you read about the Whiskey Rebellion in the 1790s, which was an uprising against U.S. Excise tax. Some people think that it was a conspiracy by Alexander Hamilton. In other words, they think he did that tax on purpose. And if they had an uprising, he didn't mind because he wanted the U.S. Army to go out there and put it down to show that the U.S. government had the authority to do it. So it's like an attempt to give prestige to the central government of the United States. That's maybe probably reading into it too much, but that's what some people will claim. Yeah, it's going to bring us to the end of 75 South. So yeah, Kentucky just had the correct kind of limestone water, good soil, just bourbon production developed there. Also Tennessee, but Kentucky, boy, that's the real thing. Yeah, so it just continued on since then, and they didn't try to revolt against the United States. In fact, when they had the secession movement in 1860-61, Kentucky stayed Union, barely, but they did. So, so this continues to today. Whiskey production in Kentucky. I've been to Kentucky many times. My friend David was in Kentucky earlier this month, or was it late last month? It was earlier this month, and he went to a good barbecue joint on United States Highway 51 out on the western side of Kentucky by the Mississippi River. So it was really good. Okay, they're similar copper color, but I think the iron wheel is a little darker. Price point. Oh yeah. Well, iron wheel was $8.99. 25% straight bourbon, straight whiskey. Doesn't say bourbon, it says straight whiskey, but it's almost assuredly bourbon. Doesn't have to be. Doesn't have to be. $8.99 for iron wheel. Bought it at Hocus Pocus Spirits on United Highway 61 in Prairieville, Louisiana, 2 years ago. The 75 South was $5.99. And they still run specials at, well, at least Albertsons, well, that's 35 miles from here, but Albertsons still running specials on that sometimes for $5.99. I think it's gone up to $6.99. But yeah. I remember when they had Albertsons blended whiskey for $4.99. But that was like 7 years ago. Okay, they had Albertsons blended whiskey $4.99, Albertsons brandy for $4.99, and Albertsons Canadian whiskey all for $4.99. Now that was a closeout price. They had the green tag on it. They were getting rid of it. They went bye-bye. No more Albertsons branded products. Last time I saw Albertsons branded product was Albertsons Silver Rum. Well, they got rid of that because Albertsons owns all kind of other stores, and they're not going to sell Albertsons and Vons. So they sell a brand like this, 75 South. That could go to any store. I've seen it in stores that aren't even associated with Albertsons. It's not a private label. I mean, it is mostly, but it isn't, because I've seen it at other liquor stores that have nothing to do with Albertsons. Okay. Iron Wheel, I bought that at an independent liquor store. Uh-oh, here's sirens. Get a lot of wrecks around here. Got these highways crossing. And people too busy on their phones, on their smartphones, to pay attention to driving. I mean, why would you want to look at the highway when you're driving? I gotta check the birthday party photos. All right. Oh, look at that seafood platter that somebody posted on Facebook, and then they wreck. Okay. Well, it smells like vanilla, charred oak, and very mild. What the United States government says. The aroma, what do they say? The flavor and characteristics generally associated with whiskey. That's the law, or regulation and pursuant of the law. It has to have, if you make a whiskey in the United States, it has to have the flavor and characteristics generally associated with whiskey. So it can't taste like brandy. It can't taste like rum. It can't taste like gin. It has to taste like whiskey. Now you say, well, do they describe the aroma and flavor generally associated with whiskey? No, they don't. But if you went to court, the judge would say something like, everybody knows what whiskey tastes like. Don't play games with me. You know, that kind of thing. Because they're going to say any reasonable person is going to know what whiskey tastes like. And if you claiming, oh, it may not taste like what you're saying, then you're not being reasonable, because we all know what it tastes like. Of course, these days, some people don't even know what is a one. Well, anyway, or a man. All right. They do know, but they pretend they don't know. Like when I fill out surveys for this YouGov, they say, what do you identify with? I say to myself, what does that matter? The proper question would be, what are you? And as a black man, I feel confident in saying that. Y'all know I'm a black man. You might be shaking your head saying, what are you talking about? That's not true. I could say it's my reality. But you see, we like to turn foolishness on its head on this channel. All right, which it doesn't take much effort. But honestly, though, all kidding aside, we deal in reality here. Some people have a problem with that. They take offense to it, start saying nasty things, none of which are true, I might add. All right, yeah, it's the same thing. Vanilla, charred oak, but very little charred oak, and the kind of grain spirits, but just like I hate to say it, it's like whiskey. It smells like whiskey, you know. I hear you. Crazy times. They're putting in a lot of money to change the psychology of sex. Yes, but they're not going to win. They think they're going to win, but they're wrong. All right. Hey, Ron. Question, says enjoy to decline. Unrelated to whiskey, did you get to try Chimay Green when they did their 150-year anniversary run? No, I did not. I never saw it. Never saw it. Work of the devil. Right. It's diabolical, Mr. R. All right. R probably stands for reason, the use of reason, logic. Okay. Logic's out of fashion these days, but it'll come back. Mathematically, it has to come back. Okay, so aroma. Nah. Ain't much happening. Let me put some light on the subject. Aroma's fine, but it's nothing different. There's no difference. So appearance is the same, aroma is the same. So we got a $5.99 bottle versus $8.99. So the $3 cheaper bottle is going to be winning. Cost is going to win if it's the same. I bought it a few times when it was available. Extraordinary. I'm glad you got to try it, because I sure didn't. Clear as a bell, huh? All right. Cheers to you. I think it tastes like creamy, lightly charred, woody corn whiskey. I mean, even if it's grain neutral spirits at 80%, what are they made out of? Invariably corn. Don't have to use corn. You can make grain neutral spirits out of any kind of grain, but it's a super cheap product. They're going to use the cheapest grain, which is corn. So common sense, government subsidized product. I don't support that. I'm a free enterprise guy. All right. But anyway, I've had people say terrible things to me about being free enterprise. ad hominem attacks. Not a bad flavor, actually. Not a bad flavor. All right, let's go over here. Similar with the creaminess, the vanilla, the oak, the corn spirits, something. But yeah, there's a little bit of more glaring corn spirits over here. It's a little loud on that, in that aspect, in that respect. What do unaged grain spirits taste like? Well, theoretically, they're supposed to be grain neutral spirits, meaning they have no flavor and no aroma. That's a legal definition. You can look it up. It's a class of liquor called grain spirits. There's two types of grain spirits. Grain neutral spirits, and the other type is vodka. They're not the same. A lot of people will say those liquors you're drinking right now are brown vodkas. No, they're not brown vodkas. They're not even brown grain neutral spirits. They're products made with grain neutral spirits. They're brown because they've got 20 to 30% straight bourbon put into them, or it could be other whiskey, like I just said. But it's bourbon. And they may have caramel color added. Not required to disclose that. Although Sazerac's pretty good about that. They usually put on the bottle caramel color added. But neither one of these bottles say that. So I'm going to assume they don't have it because they usually say it. Okay, if they add flavoring, look at Sazerac. They'll say with natural flavors. Or like that vodka thing I have, premium vodka with premium liqueur. They'll say it. I guess they're not ashamed. They'll say natural flavor, caramel color. They'll put it right on the bottle, right on the label. All right. But these don't say that, so I'm assuming they don't have it. I'm going to assume they don't have it. I could be wrong. But they sure don't taste like they have any flavoring added. They don't look like they got coloring added. It just looks like regular normalcy. When they got the coloring, it'd be unusually dark. It's like, why is this thing so dark? Yeah. But what I was saying earlier, they're not supposed to have any flavor, the grain neutral spirits, but they do kind of have a flavor, which is like a corn flavor. Like, if you're boiling corn on the cob, or you if you scrape the what you call that, the kernels off of it, or if you ever had that, that corn kernels that they crackle over coals like they do in northern Mexico. They'll have corn on the cob, but they're grilling it over this fire. It's not a fire, it's a low flame, and then it'd be like corn nuts, but it's still on the cob. You can eat it like, but it can't taste like that. But with, of course, no salt, no ketchup on it, or whatever sauce you're gonna put. You know what I mean? No, I mean, this one's creamier. More cream, meaning vanilla cream. That's true though. Vanilla cream, and none of that grain spirit filler thing. I think it's the Iron Wheel. I prefer it. Is it worth $3 more? Maybe so. It is the Iron Wheel. Okay. It's $3 more, or right now $2 more. Well, no, it's still $3 more because their price went up. In other words, 75 South went up, and then Iron Wheel went up. Thank JB for that, and his cohorts in that, what they call that, Congress. I guess you're getting your $3 worth. Now you might say, after all, it's only $3. That's true. It is only $3. So yeah, no, they don't taste the same. This one has that pretty hefty grain spirits ethanol thing going on. Like you cut your leg and you're at the doctor's office and you smell all that antiseptic. So it's kind of got that going. It's not a bad flavor. It's not a bad aroma. It's just not that great of an aroma. It's very let's call it value priced. You might say, oh no, it's cheap. It's cheap. Well, I mean, whatever terminology you want to use. Would I buy 75 South again? Oh, I don't suppose I would. I did like the new label, but I'm not gonna buy a whiskey again because it's got a new label, especially since it's kind of marginal. It would I mean in a solo review, if I was just sitting there with it by itself doing a solo review, not a comparative review, I'd probably give it a pretty decent score. So if you want to buy it, go ahead, especially if it's $5.99 on special. But but be careful when you go to the store because it's going to have a different label. It still says 75 South, but you might get confused because the label has changed pretty significantly. They don't have this ox blood and gold anymore. It's much brighter. They don't have this big thing up on the bottom about the old South and all that. All right, but you'll do better buying the handle. So if you do see it, I would say buy the big handle because it's going to be cheaper per ounce. You're going to save money over the long hauls, assuming you're going to drink it all. Yeah, so it's all right. I mean, it's obviously got some following. It's always on the shelf. It's never, you'll see it go empty and then they restock it, right? Next time you go, got to restock. So it moves, probably not like Seagram 7, but Seagram 7 obviously going to outsell all of these 20 to 1. But it'll move, steady little clip. All right, but if you see the Iron Wheel for $8.99 or $9.99, definitely buy that. But I would say still get the bigger bottle. They got the big ones, the handles, and they're glass. They're not plastic. 75 South, their big bottles are plastic. The cheaper products usually like that. But the Iron Wheel's all glass, and you're gonna come out ahead. You're gonna come out ahead buying the big bottle. But I bought the $8.99 because I didn't know what it was gonna taste like, and I didn't want to take too much of a risk, but it's a good product. Okay, let's look at the comments, and then I'm out of here because I got Major League Baseball calling me. Say the game's starting. I know. My team's lost. My teams always lose. The Cubs and the White Sox. They exemplify being bad. I know the Cubs won the World Series in 2016. I know the White Sox won it in 2005. And in 100 years, they'll probably win it again. They win it every 100 years. I get that. But they got other teams that win it every 10 years, All right, or 20 years at least. Yankees, Cardinals. Okay. Kevin Stevenson says, hi, Ron. I had an off-topic question, but how is a beer or liquor distributor different than a merchandiser or a wholesaler? Thanks. Well, they're not different. They're the same. The wholesaler is the distributor. So yes, same thing. The middleman, the three-tier system. At the top, you got the producer. In the middle, you got the guy that controls everything, the distributor, protected by the government. At the bottom, you got the retailer who sells it. It is a scam, and it is a monopoly, and it is a monopoly that is enforced by the power of state governments. So if you think it's being done for your safety or well-being, you are living in a dream world. Voice to Voya says the notorious blended whiskey description. It's like a roll of the dice whenever I see that on a bottle, laughing out loud. It is a roll of the dice, but you're not playing a high stakes game. You see, it's a low stakes. It's like you're playing penny slots. So you lose and you say, well, I ain't lost anything. I pay $8.99. See? So I played the penny slots and I won in this case, I won because it was $8.99 and it tastes pretty good. Tastes good. I don't know what to say. It tastes good. To me, it tastes like good whiskey. It tastes vanilla and a little charred oak. It's pleasant. Not gonna sit there and talk about it's extraordinary. That would be a joke, but yeah, it's nice. Mr. Amazing. Good evening, Ron. Hope you've been well. I have been. Went to church this morning at 8 o'clock, Mass. I did start falling asleep during the sermon, the homily. I felt bad too, because he was a good homily, but I was like, but that's because I woke up at 2:01. I woke up at 2:01 a.m. So, oh man, I hope the priest didn't see me. But it was a good sermon, but I can't say it was bad, but drop a like, everyone, says Mr. R. Just like my Tigers, says Jack Cottrell. My Tigers, the Detroit Tigers. Yeah, but they won in 1984, 39 short years ago. In 1968. Voice says, I feel your pain. I'm a Bears, Bulls, and White Sox fan. Oh, the Bears. The Bears. Hey, I remember 1985. The Bulls. What are you complaining about? Y'all won enough championships to satisfy you for 100 years. White Sox. Well, okay. I get that. I've been to the White Sox stadium more than any other stadium. Well, maybe Tampa Bay. It's a tie. Because I've been to like probably 10, 12 games at Tampa Bay. It's got to be more than that, though. It's got to be more. Chicago, I've been to a lot. At the White Sox, I've been to a lot. From 2001 to 2013, I went to a lot. I didn't go after that, though. 2012. Yeah, 2012. I didn't go in 2013. We went to the Cubs, went to the Cardinals, the Cubs, and the Milwaukee Brewers on that trip. Didn't get to the White Sox. They weren't in town that week or something. Oh, man, it's been that long. I need to go back and see the White Sox. I went to see that perfect game in 2009. I was there. I got the ticket. I'm looking at it right there. A guy wanted to give me $100 for that ticket stub. I was at a Pontiac dealership last year, Pontiac. He says, I'll give you $100 for that ticket stub. I said, no way. I knew what he was going to do. He was going to go around telling all his friends he was at the game, Mark Burley, perfect game. I said, I ain't selling that ticket. I got it right there on the wall. All right. Laughing out loud. When they brought in the guaranteed rate name and had a giant red arrow pointing down, I felt like a bad omen. Laughing out loud. Right. Guaranteed rate. We're going to trend down. Oh, well, it doesn't matter. I've been to a game at this is the truth, and I'm getting off of here because Major League Baseball is on now. Well, pregame, but at least, but I'm going to go. But I've been to a game at every major league ballpark. I've been to at least one game at every major league ballpark, current major, and some that have been demolished. That's a true story. That's a true story. How many people do you know that's been to at least one game at every major league ballpark? And I've been to more than 30. What is it? I calculated it was like 39. All right. So the winner is Iron Wheel. Even though it costs more, it's better. It's better. From the Legacy Distilling Company. I'll give y'all 1 minute. And that's it. Do you know? You should do a New Orleans, Louisiana beer liquor brands project. There's not enough of them, though. It wouldn't work. And plus, there's not enough viewership. The viewers would be like, oh, we don't care about Louisiana brands. And I can understand that. I mean, I do. I live here, but you know what I'm saying, Kevin? All right. Your favorite park. Oh, I can't answer that question. I cannot. I'm going to give y'all 1 minute. Do you know who owns the Legacy Distilling Company? The bottle should show you. That's on my bucket list to go to every major league stadium. You see, that was on my bucket list in 2001. And I told my friend Paul, I said, if we just talk about it, we're never going to do it. I said, in my mind, we have to do it. And I mean, we have to do it now. So, 2002, we went to a bunch of them in the middle part. 2003, we went to the East Coast. 2004, he was about to get married. So the new woman said, you ain't going to no games. You know how that works. So, 2004, I went to some more out like in Kansas City. That's not on really anybody's route. And then in 06, I did the West Coast trip. And then in 07, I went to Toronto. So he couldn't finish it, but I did. I was like, I am finishing this. And of course, I had to make other trips because they built new stadiums. So yeah, I did it. I did. I didn't talk about it. I did it. I did it. I did it. It was the best traveling I ever did in my life. The best tourist attractions in the world. My favorite, well, Tropicana Field is very interesting. But they're all very interesting. I mean, they're all. I mean, it's hard to say what's the best because Wrigley Field, you got to go to that. Fenway Park, of course, you have to go to that. Dodger Stadium, I went to a game there. That was really nice. Angel Stadium was nice. But they were all nice. Like I said, they're all nice. People say, what's the worst park? People ask me this question. What's the worst? I say, you have to remember now, keep this in mind. The worst Major League Baseball park is awesome. Okay? So it's all a matter of A- to A+. See what I'm saying? So it's like the worst is really nice, and I feel confident in saying that. I mean, they got haters out there that they hate every park. I read their review. Every park is garbage, you know. Just like if they review a beer, every beer is bad. I've had that Chimay Grand Reserve. That stuff's terrible. I'm like, oh really? Okay, uh, Heaven Hill. What are you saying, Heaven Hill? Why are you bringing up Heaven Hill? Okay. Oh no, not Heaven Hill. Oh, I see what you're saying. No, it's Sazerac. It's Sazerac. Sazerac owns the founders company. Everything you turn around and see is Sazerac. It's loud in Tropicana Field. All the sound bounces off the dome. I like it. It is loud. And when they hit the home run and they blow that big horn, like that 18-wheeler horn, woo, it's loud. But it's a very interesting stadium, I gotta say. I mean, it's not perfect. Clearly, it's not perfect. It's built in 1990, but it's interesting. And I'm tired of, all these back in the 90s, all these new parks. They were interesting, but they got kind of boring because they were all like every one of them had red brick and these like weird angles in the outfield and red brick on the outside. And I could go on and on. And I was like, well, these are all cookie cutter too. It's just a different cookie. Because that was the complaint. All those parks built in the 70s were cookie cutter. Okay, fine. So then you replicated that by building the same thing in the 90s. That was all the same cookie cutter, but it was red brick now. It wasn't concrete. It's not concrete, it's red brick. Right. Did the Superdome back in the day only sell Dixie beer? Oh, no, 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 no. The Louisiana Superdome always sold Miller High Life, now Miller Lite, of course. Budweiser, now Bud Light, and a little Budweiser, I guess. Yeah, they sold Dixie, of course, too. Falstaff, Coors, Light, probably in the 80s. Oh, yeah, I mean, all the same stuff. You go there now, they got every kind of craft beer, which is owned by corporate, big people, big corporate craft. You know what I'm saying? Corporate craft beers, you see. But yeah, but the Superdome always did have cocktails, highballs, wine, beer, any kind of liquor. So like if you went, people thought college football didn't allow alcohol sales, but if you went to Tulane football in the 80s, I'm sorry, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and now they always had liquor. I mean, they might have dropped it because it wasn't selling. Like, I don't know if they sold it this past year. but it wasn't no regulation. Oh, but they had so much wine. I went to Tulane games this past year. They had so much beer and wine. Oh yeah, they had liquor. They just didn't have as much of a smorgasbord as they did in the past. Oh yeah. All right, thanks everybody. Let's go see what happens in the game. I didn't want to go out blurry.